What have you learned about understanding the motivations that change behavior in others?
You can appeal to someone on sort of an ethical basis, which with some people that works, with most people it doesn't, because people generally don't like to have other people's values thrust upon them. Or, particularly when you're dealing with capitalism in the private sector, you can appeal to a sense of profit. And at some point, I'm going to be able to reconcile those two things. I haven't been able to do that yet, because I think underneath all of this, there has to be an ethic involved for people to ultimately do the right thing. But until that day, I think that greed and profit is an extraordinarily strong motive. And if you want companies to change their behavior, and as officers of a company or an executive of a company, they have a fiduciary responsibility to serve the shareholders of their company. You really have to show them that this is the right thing to do. Changing the environmental behavior of their company is the right thing to do, and it can do so through reduction in costs, whether it's energy or raw materials or whatever it happens to be, or through reputation and branding, or some of those other sort of more external intangible assets that a company has. That really, if you look at the valuation of a company, sometimes those intangible assets can be 75% of brand value. So if you can really use that kind of understanding to get to change behavior, you're ultimately going to be more successful. I really want to appeal to someone's sense of, this is the right thing to do for all the right business reasons. But I think in order for it to be truly sustainable, you have to have a change in ethics. And there was a writer named Aldo Leopold who wrote this book called The Sand County Almanac, and he has a whole essay in there called The Land Ethic. And he goes very deep into detail of why such an ethic is important, because without it, you have a limited longevity in changing. People will only change the behavior until it's not profitable anymore. But ultimately, for there to be coexistence on this planet between all the different species and the ecosystems that we all contribute to, there has to be a strong ethic there. I don't generally try to appeal to people on that. That's a much harder sell. But my hope is that if you kind of start with the profit, and you start with this is the right thing to do, and there is no fundamental trade-off between environment and economy, then you can segue into that ethic a lot more easily. And then people come by that on their own, and it's not being thrust upon them. And I think you believe it more, and the longevity is enhanced.